do you remember Vine? Well, unfortunately, Vine died. I'm sorry for you to find out this way. Back in the day, Vine brought us hits like
these nuts.
Yeah! But it also brought us these people. And guess what? They didn't die. In fact, they've done quite a bit of stuff since Vine's collapse in 2017. The thing is, all of their stuff has just been very weirdly different. They've ended up choosing different styles, becoming completely disconnected from one another, even beefing in some instances, and Vine has started to feel like the only thing that these people ever had in common. Vine as a platform was cool, but it was very limiting for its creators. It only gave people 6 seconds of runtime for a video, so not a lot of room for creativity. Because of this, almost everyone on Vine had to stick to a pretty strict, short, and to-the-point sketch comedy format, which made content kind of samey. In short, because the platform was so limited, the creators we know who came from it all essentially started out making the same type of content. So the question arises, if they all came from the same place, how come they all ended up in such different destinations? Today we'll be breaking up Viners into 3 categories based on their post-Vine content styles and studying what has made each of these categories, each of these creators, so unique. By understanding how they've stayed relevant, how they've developed their content, and what kind of audience they've respectively created, I think we can better understand the reasons why they're all so different and also understand some very important guiding concepts which will give us insight on the future of the internet content creator space. Anywho, you know what they say. Worst for first. Let's talk kids content. Jake Paul used to make some really ass garbage, butt cheeks, shitty, stinking ass content. However, when you are of the age where shitting your pants is a regular occurrence, stinky butt cheeks content may actually resonate with you pretty well. Loud, in-your-face, vlog-style content seemed to be like the sweet spot for a lot of kids growing up on the internet for a long time. For little kids, all that really matters is that something can keep their attention. And so by focusing on energy and spectacle in his videos over anything related to story or quality, Jake was able to build up his audience of young kids post-Vine. Everything was flashy, everything was showy, everything was drama. It caught the eye far more than it ever stimulated the mind, if you know what I mean. The problem with this is that over the years, as Jake's audience aged, they began to see content that was a bit more good. His focus either had to shift to larger spectacle stuff or content that focused more on older groups of people. Lele Pons found herself in a very similar situation around the same time. Lele had tried to continue down the sketch comedy route after Vine, just in longer form. Her jokes... I don't want to be mean to Lele. It's kid content, but, you know, obviously that wasn't working perfectly for her either. Too much reliance on the funny faces, not enough, actual jokes in there. So yes, as that novelty kind of wore off over time, Lele also needed a new content strategy. The thing here is that these two weren't necessarily doing bad by general internet standards. Actually, I would say that the numbers would say quite the opposite. It's just that they had to do a lot to maintain their positions. They commanded massive but ultimately not overly loyal audiences, and if they ever left the drama and news cycle for too long, their viewership would just stop going up. Jake ultimately found his ultimate source of spectacle and drama in boxing. Really all he has to do now is talk enough shit and keep people interested in his story. He's a hell of a lot closer to a WWE fighter than a real boxer. Ironic, family business. But overall, it kind of seems like the perfect niche for him. It's a place where being an asshole actually kind of helps, and he doesn't really have to focus on putting as much juice behind creative projects that he's obviously not really that interested in. Lele, on the other hand, has had a much more rocky relationship with relevance. In May of 2020, she dropped a 5-part documentary about her struggles with mental health issues and the stress of being such a big internet celebrity. From what I've seen of this, which isn't a whole ton admittedly, but it seemed like it was a very raw and honest take on the state of her life at the time, and it's hard to not feel some serious sympathy for Lele when you watch it. I honestly will probably end up making a whole video about this. It's super interesting, but it does seem like she's genuinely been through a whole lot. Lele came out the other side of this all in a really unexpected type of way. I guess she's been doing this for a while, but as somebody who really lost touch with Lele after about a year or two after Vine, it's really interesting to see that now her whole career is starting to focus really hard on her music. Over the last 3 years, Lele has posted pretty much nothing but music videos on her channel, and it seems like music and a new podcast that she's starting up may just be the way forward for her. She still has a big audience and she gets plenty of views, just now built on a platform that isn't as reliant on being in the news cycle as constantly.
Yeah, I sure hope it does. Just vibes, dude. Vibes. Summer vibes, dude.
Now, Cody and Drew Gooden are essentially the antithesis of the first two. These two were on the spearhead of the commentary genre, a group of YouTubers who essentially made videos to discuss YouTubers like we talked about in the kids content section. Anything that would be considered problematic, cringy, goofy, these guys were the ones on the front lines covering it. I'd be willing to bet we've all seen at least one video from Cody Ko's famous That's Cringe series with fellow Vine star Noel Miller, known for great lines like,
His neck level's over 9,000. Sugar gay.
this is real journalism, folks. Cody was very much on the goofs and gags side of the commentary genre, by which, of course, I just mean that he definitely made videos about a lot of creators that most would consider actually seriously harmful, but he always kept it super light and super fun. Drew definitely also focused mainly on jokes, but he spent much more of his time doing some more journalistic content that was more aimed at bringing attention to content creators who were harming their audiences in some way. Our guy Jake Paul from earlier was actually one that both of these guys tackled at one point. Cody just clowned a couple of his goofier, shittier videos, and Drew actually helped to expose his Team 1000 scam as well as a couple of the other cash grabs that he ran during that time period. Overall, these guys actually really helped build my internet literacy as far as just, identifying internet ne'er-do-wells and scammers. Their early commentary-focused stuff, I think, seriously made the internet a safer place and helped a generation of kids stay away from the wrong influencer crowd. I just made a video about this, so I won't go into too much depth on it, but they're people I look up to a lot. As they've aged and moved away from drama-related stuff, they've really leaned into content that's just more focused on them being themselves. Just by being very likable and funny on camera, these guys built really loyal audiences, and now the content can be more about the stuff they're personally interested in than whatever, creators being cringe at the time or whatever it was back in the day. They have smaller audiences than the first group for sure, and significantly so, but they've never gotten greedy, and now they have platforms that are much more tailored to them doing things that they actually want to do.
Better scramble like an egg before you get folded like an omelet, nigga. Hey.
What are your talents?
Now to our most interesting category. Caleb City and King Vader are about as opposite as you can get. Vader always felt like a weird fit on the internet because his sketches were really just kind of made to be longer than a Vine, but since the punchline was dancing half the time, they also didn't fit super well with the YouTube sketch comedy scene. They were too big of ideas to execute in 6 seconds, but not complicated enough for multiple minutes. That's all I'm trying to say. One thing he definitely always showed, though, was a knack for making his goofy skits feel kind of cool and cinematic. So what does he do now? Movies. Bro makes just movies on YouTube. This is by far our most unique creator today. Vader has started taking some of the same humor and, shot style from his old sketches and just turning them into short films. I just watched one of his most recent films, Hood Jujutsu Kaisen, which is like a live-action, slight shift in interpretation of the anime Jujutsu Kaisen, which first off, I don't get why the Hood thing exists, why all of these videos are tagged with Hood in the title. It makes no sense in this context, but I digress. But seriously, wow, this was very, very cool. It's definitely kind of goofy at parts, and I'm not exactly sure how true this was supposed to be to the plot, because they definitely changed some details and smushed some things together. But all things considered, the production quality is pretty high, and the acting itself is not half bad, especially when you consider that they're working with anime voice lines, which are an ungodly amount of cringe. Vader is an unreal type of creator, and his audience rides with the stuff that he does super duper hard. I mean, they've been very loyal to him and have actually pulled up very big time to support his big creative direction shift. Caleb, on the other hand, a wild exception to every rule we've set so far. I mean, this dude basically breaks this video by himself. Caleb's content just hasn't changed a ton from what I can tell.
At the end of darn it, you're right. Good luck then. Here.
Careful now. There's goblins
Come
right
on. And I'm not even in that direction. Who's he talking to?
He still does pretty similar bits, pretty similar video concepts, pretty similar delivery. I guess his humor was just ahead of its time on Vine or something, because this is all aged like fine wine. Admittedly, I still love Caleb's shit, and clearly his audience does too. His channel is huge right now. His videos are racking in literal millions of views, even years and years after he first developed this format. This dude has been just subtly honing his craft for years while staying in the same style, and honestly, I just love this. He hasn't changed things to worry about staying relevant or keeping his audience loyal. He's just got a good formula, people fuck with it, and he sticks to it. Clearly it's been working for him. Awesome. Researching a bit for this video has definitely proven one thing to me. The most important thing for having a long career online is having an audience that really cares about you. It sounds dumb, it sounds obvious, I know, but if people really like not just the content you're making, but you, the actual creator, they'll keep coming back no matter what. Our kid-focused creators naturally walked themselves into a less loyal audience. Kids grow up, they change, and they'll lose interest in the stuff that used to entertain them super quickly. Kids just have quick-moving attention spans, and you really need to keep capturing them to have them actually stick around. Constant drama, constant changes. It's really hard for a creator to sustainably keep up with. Ultimately, these two just had to use a ton of outside methods to keep eyes on their YouTube content, and both eventually just kind of ended up, understandably, moving on. Cody and Drew went on a very different path right after Vine. These guys made excellent content and stayed out of drama as much as possible. They grew steadily over the years and slowly began introducing their personalities more and more. At a certain point, I think people just started coming back solely for them. I know I did. They're now more free to make content that's true to who they are than they have ever been. Except for Cody, he needs to keep making button videos. But no, all jokes aside, I think that that's gotta be pretty neat for these two. Vader's content thing is even crazier because of how loyal his audience has stayed through all the drastic content changes. I mean, obviously plenty of people want to stay because Vader's just a cool guy and whatever, but his content has changed so much that the loyalty still shocks me. These people have ridden with Vader through all of these massive content direction shifts, and it's just great to see him being supported in making huge artistic strides. It is so cool. He has an awesome community. And then the Caleb thing is just nuts. Honestly, I was expecting every creator I picked for this video to have some degree of the fan base loyalty thing. His shit is just incomprehensible. Outlier wouldn't even begin to cover it. The dude just sticks to his guns and his people love it. So much respect for that. His stuff is really great. Obviously, I'm kind of overplaying how close it is to his old Vine content. He's definitely changed a lot of stuff. He's definitely adapted to more modern memes and whatever, but still, Caleb is really doing a very similar style, and it's just so awesome to see how much he's perfected his craft. As this next generation of creators ages, it's going to be interesting to see how their content is forced to shift. TikTok is certainly more stable as a platform than Vine ever was, but that doesn't mean that it hasn't really faced its fair share of monetization issues and creator complaints. To build a lucrative career online, TikTok really has started to seem like it's only a launching place, and it's going to be interesting to see how TikTokers are forced to adapt in the coming years. Will more people keep trying to walk the mainstream media route off TikTok? Will we see more online innovators like Vader who create completely new content genres for themselves? Is the creator market just too oversaturated at this point to support another mass exodus off of TikTok if TikTok really does become unstable long term? I don't know the answer to those, but I do know this. The ones who make it, and I mean, not just get big numbers and fancy cars, the creators who really get stable, long-term platforms to keep putting out creative and quality content on, are creators who are loved for who they are first and for what their content is second. Having a fan base that's willing to stick by you is just essential to finding longevity on the internet. I hope that this next generation of YouTubers, TikTokers, or otherwise can just hopefully understand the importance of having people that really fuck with you in your corner. Not just people who are here to watch you, but people who want to support you.